Good. How you guys doing?
We're good. Are you in a car?
I may be. I'm driving to next gen. That's what's happening.
Did you get like kicked out of the house or something?
I did, man. I'm just not welcome anywhere. I'm just
Adam, do we need to talk? Are you okay?
Maybe after I need a hug.
So we're gonna talk about the new console generation. That is 3 weeks away. So we're right on it.
Yeah.
But before we do that, Adam, do you want to give a little background about yourself?
Sure. So I am live in Columbus, Ohio, and I met these wonderful people on those couches, Chris and Cody. Man, what's it been now? 8 years, I think, since we met or something.
Yeah, it was like the first.
And
it was the first GDEX, right?
yeah, because I was doing a lot of extra life work, and they were doing GDEX, and we kind of met. We're like, wait a minute, we should be best friends. Let's do it. So I've been helping with the charity side of things and all this stuff. So it's been a really cool relationship that we've kind of built and worked together on a lot of these things. And then also I'm a writer for IGN and do a bunch of news, previews, features, commerce stuff, all this stuff. So I'm just kind of all over the place, as I like to say. So it's I just love living in the world of video games.
So I think that's a good place to start. This is a strange year. I think everyone's acutely aware of that. And we have seen that very heavily just in the launch cycle of these new consoles. Like we really didn't get any information until about 6 weeks ago, maybe, and then it's been a flood of information since then. So, Adam, you've actually broke some of the initial news on some of these things. What are your just thoughts about this sort of release year in general thus far?
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously not what everybody expected, because when there's a big console launch, they usually fly press out to events. We'll be playing games at E3. They have like all kinds of stuff leading up to these launches, building up the hype cycles. But yeah, like you said, we didn't really find out much of anything until just a few weeks ago, and we still don't know everything. Like, we don't know what the UI of the PlayStation 5 looks like yet. We don't know. There's like some other little things. Like yesterday, we found out a lot about the backwards compatibility for PS4. So there's still a lot of stuff we still have yet to learn, which on one hand is kind of exciting, but it's also just so weird because these things are literally out. I think like 1 month from today, the Xbox Series X is coming out. So it's upon us really quickly. So it's weird because I think, when we're past the launches and when we're a few months into them, I feel like people aren't so much going to remember the frustrations we have now because we're obviously living through the pandemic and stuff like that. But once we have this stuff in our hands, I think everyone's going to be pretty happy because these things should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you have to emphasize that in a normal console year, your basic information, even just your pre-order dates, your costs, like at the worst, you're probably going to know that stuff at E3 in June.
Yeah.
But you usually, if it's not an official announcement, you at least have leaks and stuff ahead of time on that. The fact that it was like September before we even had release dates of these things and like pre-order dates just sort of popped up, and we've known the price for like 3 weeks on these.
Yeah, I think it was like for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, we knew releases around February was when we had the PS4 event, and then we had I think prices and dates revealed around E3 for both of them, with kind of the monumental how you share your games on PS4 video. So yeah, it's super interesting, and that's kind of was the interesting thing. I'm sure we're going to talk about this more later, but Chris and I have been trying to do the Win Big competition for. I mean, we talked about this 6 months ago. We were just like, yeah, we're just going to get it. This is going to be a really cool, kind of exciting time for games and, kind of a cool expo thing that we can do for GDEX. And so, it was every month. It's just like, oh, God, can we even announce this yet? Like, we don't know when pre-orders are going to go live. And, Adam, you and I, ex-Amiibo collectors, we definitely, what was it, Rosalina? That we woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to a Target.
Those are the days, man. Those are
the days. So yeah, I was like, oh, look at me. I did the Amiibo Hunter. I have all the Smash Amiibo. Like, we can do these consoles no problem. And I remember we did a meeting where we were like, hey, should we announce it? Should we just pull the trigger and go? And I was just like, maybe not. Like, these consoles are insane, and the fact that we're so far delayed, just the fact that we're getting them in 2020 to start with is kind of mind-boggling to me. I did not think that 3 months ago.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting that they have both stuck to a 2020 release despite there's no way there weren't some manufacturing issues, some pricing issues. One of the things we talk about is both consoles are using pretty powerful graphics cards, and when you're building out a console, Sony and Microsoft, they're pricing these things out years in advance. Mm-hmm. And then, as we all know, when COVID hit, graphics cards, streaming equipment, all these things started to come in real short supply. So that had to impact their bottom line a little bit.
Yeah.
At a minimum. But it's just, even, we'll say this. Flygar. We got Flygar in here.
Flygar.
For our contest, we're super excited. We have them on pre-order.
Yeah.
Still.
Hopefully
I hope so.
Hopefully they come. That's always the scary thing too.
I mean, I haven't received any announcements that anything's being canceled or whatever. So we got them. But just for everybody that's listening and for our winners that we'll be announcing soon, like, we're gonna try to get them to you on launch day, but we have no idea. We just have no idea.
Yep. It's definitely been a weird year.
So, Adam, what are you excited about? I know you're just a big gamer in general, so I think you're probably going to end up just buying both consoles and, putting them between you, or on the sides of you and just, like, living in their warmth. But what are you personally excited about with the sort of the new console generation? Is there one console you're kind of sort of jazzed about more than the other? Or?
Yeah, the Switch Pro, obviously.
The Switch Pro, yeah. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Nintendo guy, but as far as the two, I mean, I really love what Xbox has been doing with all their like subscription services and how there's just going to be so many games you'll be able to play, and a lot of games that I haven't got to because of one reason or the other. My backlog is just extremely scary. Mm-hmm. So being able to play all these games on day one on the Xbox Series X is going to be really exciting. So I'm definitely excited to try a lot of the newer games and stuff like that. But I think what I'm most excited for really is just, I think Demon's Souls might be the top of the list for me, because game looks freaking gorgeous. It looks very, next gen, quote unquote. And Bloodborne's really the only like From Software game that I've really gotten into, and I've always wanted to try to get into the other ones. And there's just something about this that's just calling to me. It looks so great, and I'm excited to jump into that. And then another pile of shame moment for me is I have yet to beat Marvel Spider-Man. So
ooh, I haven't even played it yet.
Remastered version. Oh yeah, so excited to jump back into the remastered version and then play Miles Morales and stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to. But for me personally, I always like that new shiny piece of technology. I'm like the piece of candy kind of guy. So yeah. I'm just excited to have the new faster load times, new systems. It's an exciting time to like jump forward in the future that we've been living in since 2012, I think it was.
Totally. So I'm for myself, I pre-ordered a PS5 just for my personal use, and just the SSD alone I'm excited about, like being able to have quicker load times. You mentioned Bloodborne. I'm the same way. That was the first From Software game I got into, and I don't know if you remember, but when that game first came out, I played it pretty much at release. The load times on that were terrible. They were like over a minute. Yeah, every time you died, it was like a minute plus of just waiting around. They eventually went back. They did some optimization. They got it down to like 15 to 20 seconds or so. But I mean, with the SSDs, you should easily be able to get that down to 5 seconds or less for, the older PS4 games. Who knows what having all this 4K nonsense is going to be like on load times. But so you mentioned Microsoft. I think that's, if there's anything that sort of clearly shows, I hesitate to say a new direction, but just a very specific sort of business direction. It's Microsoft's service. Like they're going for a services play in a lot of ways, not necessarily a game sales, console sales direction. Adam, do you think that's a result of Microsoft just sort of acknowledging that they're kind of losing the sales numbers of both this current gen and next gen, so they're just coming at it from a different direction?
So yeah, I do think, this generation, PlayStation 4 has like such a lead. It's really not even super close. And obviously they have the exclusives and stuff like that. Microsoft's been purchasing a whole bunch of studios, and obviously may talk about this in a little bit, but now that they own Bethesda, they have some potential great exclusives or things that they can kind of share out to the world and really entice people. But Microsoft obviously, Xbox is a big part of it, but the other side of Microsoft is the PC world and the gaming world. And they've kind of shifted this thing. They're like, you know what, we have both these platforms. We don't really need to start segmenting them. Like, let's put all of our games so people can play wherever they want. So, with Game Pass and all this stuff, like Halo Infinite, obviously, that was the biggest issue, or one of the biggest launch games that we were hoping for this year, and that's obviously not coming. But when it does launch, it'll be available on PC, it'll be available on Series X, it'll be available on Xbox One, and also it'll most likely be available on their cloud gaming service. So ideally, they'll get all these iOS issues messed up, and then I'll be playing Halo Infinite on my iPhone on the launch day or iPad. I mean, that would be pretty fancy stuff. So they have this infrastructure and technology to really push, I think, gaming to a new frontier, as it were, and say, hey, obviously we want you to buy our systems. Like, obviously that's a big of it, but that's not the only part of it. We want you to be part of the Xbox ecosystem. So you can play a game on your Xbox, and then when you're on the road, you can play it on your iPad or your iPhone, or if you want to mess around with mods more, jump on PC. So I think that's really what they're trying to do, and say, we can capture so many more people than just trying to, wall these gardens and just keep people on this one platform where Sony's clearly got the leg up, at least at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the Xbox play that I think is really interesting, is that it's they're kind of, I don't want to say shunning like their traditional thing, right? Because they, a lot of people who like video games, right? You have kind of the people who are invest and they have all of the consoles and all of the things. And with Xbox offering Game Pass on PC now, I feel like they're almost cannibalizing their console sales, but they're doing it because, again, they're doing this not games as a service, but this game service like the Netflix of games, right? And it's impossible to talk about or to really downplay the value that you can get with Game Pass now, where like any brand new Xbox game you just get on date.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And I really like, I think I was listening to a video by Alana Pierce, who was talking about like, hey, this is amazing for like games accessibility for like a lot of different reasons, right? And it's, okay, cool. Like I grew up in the country. I didn't, I got the occasional game on my, birthday or on Christmas, or, maybe for saving up some chore money or something like that. But it's insane to know that, at the time, if Game Pass was a thing, I was already paying for Xbox Live Gold. Having another $5 could have gotten me every brand new game that Xbox ever did. Like, for parents, for families, for kids, that's such an awesome value for them. And I really think that that's kind of the hit that they're going after more, is like the family, the kind of value proposition. And particularly we can see that with things like the One S, where they have this lower, end, hey, dad wants to buy a Xbox Series X to put in his basement man cave, but now he can buy, a couple One S's for his two kids, so that they can play games with them on Game Pass and share it in this one ecosystem. And I think that's been really interesting from the Microsoft kind of ecosystem play, that I think, I'd love to see PlayStation be doing more of that. Horizon came out on Steam, and Death Stranding came out on PC. But other than that, we don't really see many Sony exclusives. So, yeah, seeing that kind of move into an ecosystem, I think, is really strong and is positioning, maybe Microsoft won't win the console war, but I don't know if they care anymore.
So, we're definitely going to talk about exclusives, but I want to jump back from that for a second, because I think it is important to remember that the services play on Microsoft is where pretty much their entire business model is now. Mm-hmm. No matter what that is, whether it's Windows, whether it's Office 365, like their Azure backend, like Microsoft is a software as a services company.
Yeah,
like that's their thing, and if they can make up the margin that let's say they theoretically might lose on an Xbox sale with somebody who's going to be a member of their services for years on end, then that's probably just fine for Microsoft. Yeah. They don't need to outsell Sony. Whereas I would put out, and I'm sure most people agree with me. Actually, one of the guests that we're going to have, Greg Miller, mentions this all the time. We're like, dude, you just can't trust Sony and PlayStation on their software and server side. Like, you want to believe that their stuff's going to be really good, but time and time again, I think Microsoft has shown that they're just better at the server and services game than Sony is. Like I hate, and I don't hate many things, but dude, I hate the PlayStation 4's UI and how you can't really move stuff around or delete stuff, and like 80% of it is just filled with crap that I didn't put there.
Yep.
You know, it's all stuff that Sony suggests I might want. I'm like, I don't want your suggestions. I just want to put my stuff on here. Things like I got an app for like ESPN, and there's like Peacock is like the new one that's on there. I was like, I am not going to use Peacock. I'm never going to use Peacock. Just get rid of it.
That's what The Office is going to be, Chris.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you got to watch The Office.
But that's why I'm curious about Microsoft's play, because they're definitely spinning it as from a marketing standpoint, is like, we're the best consumer friendly, you know, this is the best places to play. I'm very doubtful that if they were winning this current console war, if that's the route they would have taken for this generation.
Yeah.
And maybe you agree or disagree with me on that. But
I completely agree. I think, you know, they really, like I said, found themselves behind, especially with the debacle of the launch of the Xbox One, when they had to like basically rechange their whole mission statement and structure from, you know, TV first, all this kind of stuff. And I think once Phil Spencer kind of took over as the head of Xbox, they really kind of found their footing, and they started purchasing studios. And we still haven't seen, you know, the fruits of all that labor yet. And I think we will obviously start seeing it this generation, which is really exciting, because it takes a while to build these big games and big, you know, IPs and all this stuff. So I think it's definitely a result of that, a result of losing in the console war, and a result of them seeing kind of the benefit of broadening their search and saying, hey, the future is not so much about these boxes. It's about enabling our players to play anywhere and building these services that are valuable, that will keep people in our ecosystem for months and months and months, where, you know, obviously there's people like us who are going to buy all the new releases and do all this stuff, but there's a lot of families who will just buy Call of Duty, or they'll just buy a few games per year.
Yep.
But if they have that $15 per month charge or something, that's going to get some more money out of people that probably wouldn't have bought as many games, but they see the value of having this massive library for that small charge every month.
Yeah, yep. 15 a month is like 160, 180 a year. And so we're talking, I think 150 a year. So we're talking, if a family buys less than 3 games, they've beat that cost. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, and that's, you know, we're sitting here throwing a video game expo with guests that are in the video game industry. Most people, the average video game consumer, buys 1 to 3 games a year.
Yep.
They're not buying. Discount Steam and all their Steam nonsense and sales and everything. We've got that 1,000 title library. But, you know, most people are getting, you know, maybe Call of Duty, 2K, and then if a cool game like, you know, God of War pops up or something. So there's definitely...
I think Spider-Man will be big.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Sony is going to milk that Spider-Man for everything it's worth. But speaking of exclusives, I think we got to talk about Bethesda a little bit. Because that was a bomb that dropped, and Microsoft timed that bomb to disrupt some of Sony's kind of big announcements. So they between acknowledging the Series S was a real thing, giving some prices, and the Bethesda news, they pretty much ate up a news cycle for, I would say, at least a week, you know, at places like IGN. So, Adam, what was your first response, and what do you think your thoughts are to this Bethesda purchase by Microsoft?
Well, first off, I still think that whoever's running Xbox's social team and marketing strategy should get a raise, because they're doing some great work out there, let me tell you.
It's real good.
Timing that Bethesda announcement the day before, you know, pre-orders went live for the Series X and Series S, and then also responding to the leak, because, you know, the Series X and S, all the prices and the look of the console leaked about a week before they were planned, and they, you know, handled it well. They got all their stuff together, released all the information. So that was a great thing. But, you know, as far as Bethesda, I mean, that's one of the biggest, I think, acquisitions and stories that can happen in the games industry. I mean, it's $7.5 billion. You know, you always like to, comparisons work in some cases, some they don't. But, you know, Disney bought LucasArts and all of Lucasfilm and Star Wars for $4 billion. They bought Marvel for $4 billion, which was one of the best deals ever, if you can imagine that. But I think it is a huge, huge win for them. But the big question, obviously, which I'm sure we'll get into, is like, what does that mean for Elder Scrolls and for Starfield? Like, what's going to happen with these games that are some of the biggest games ever. I mean, obviously, Elder Scrolls is one of the most beloved series. Skyrim is on refrigerators and calculators and all this kind of stuff that's everywhere.
It was on a blood glucose monitor like a couple months ago or something.
It's crazy. So I don't know. I'm torn because I feel like I may be in the minority, but I'm very curious to kind of hear your guys' thoughts. But with the way Xbox is kind of building their whole ecosystem and software, I kind of feel like we may see Elder Scrolls 6 on a PS5, but I don't know.
So
what do you guys think?
I think if Microsoft is going with their services play, then it's smart for them to just own the IP. We can see this with Minecraft. You know, Microsoft saw where the money's at, and for them, why would they make Minecraft exclusive when they can be getting all of this revenue from all of these other platforms? So I definitely could see Microsoft just keeping maybe a couple exclusives back. And also keep in mind, for those who aren't aware, Sony for the longest time, and we're talking decades here, had way more first-party studios than Microsoft by like a large margin. And so with this one acquisition of Bethesda, you've got obviously Skyrim, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom, Starfield,
Prey, all of Arcane stuff.
Yeah. So you're getting a lot of, even though it's like Bethesda as a purchase, you're getting a lot of studios. I'd still say pound for pound, PlayStation's probably still got the better first-party exclusive titles, but that gap has closed dramatically.
Yeah, and I'd be really interested, now that Microsoft owns these companies, right, and more so than the IP, as a developer, it's really interesting that Microsoft now owns the tech behind it. Like, Microsoft owns id Tech. Like, they can put...
Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah, they can put Gears of War on id. Like,
sure.
You know, it's going to be really cool to see. You know, I remember when they were talking about... God, what game was it? I think it was Forza or something. They brought it in, and then they used the water technology that was used in Sea of Thieves. Like, just, you know, the Sea of Thieves team did a ton of research and technology on making these really cool water graphic shaders and everything like that.
Yep.
And then other Microsoft studios were able to import that in and start using it for their games. And so more than anything, I'm really interested in the cross of, like, okay, well, now we have decades of, you know, id Tech, and we have decades of all these other things. Like, are we going to see a Halo in id Tech, like, running like a Doom game? Like, are we going to see more of this, like, flow? Are we going to see, you know...
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's
super interesting.
Sorry. I think that's a really important point, because and that was demonstrated as an example within the Sony ecosystem with Death Stranding.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Hideo Kojima had worked for decades at Konami. They had the Fox engine. They didn't have an engine when he left, and when Sony supported them, brought them on as a PS4 exclusive, they took... I'm totally blanking on Horizon's engine. Guerrilla Games I'm blanking on what's called. Decima engine. And Sony is, you hear this all the time with, you know, Naughty Dog and Studio Santa Monica and Guerrilla Games. They shared tech and knowledge between first-party studios.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've brought in some of these studios that, you know, I hesitate to say Bethesda was an island, but now they have access to a lot of what Microsoft can offer. Now they can be sharing titles. I think... you mentioned Halo being delayed. That was a good move, because that game did not look like it was next-gen ready. So maybe they can make some of this technology available and push those games forward. My only concern, well, not my only concern, but one of my major concerns is Microsoft does not have the best track record of taking in studios and using them to their best abilities. Rare, we just had a call with Grant Kirkhope. Rare is a great example where Microsoft kind of killed that studio. Just the way the culture was and the structure was. It seems like under Phil Spencer's leadership, they've turned over a new leaf.
Yeah, I think I've seen them being able to grow and being able to have that, and things like, you know, given this isn't like an Xbox, you know, Microsoft-owned company, but I know things like with Game Pass and, you know, paying smaller developers like, hey, here's enough money to finish your game, just let it be on Game Pass. Like, we don't even care if it's on PC. We don't care if you launch it on other consoles. Just make it be free for Game Pass. And from what I've heard of those dealings, like, they're pretty lenient. They're pretty... You know, I think Microsoft has learned from kind of the destruction of some of their past ones. And I think they've also learned, like... there's been some really cool Xbox One exclusives. Like I love Forza Horizon. I really liked Sea of Thieves, but there really wasn't
You
that
like the
standout.
Sunset Overdrive too.
Yeah, Sunset Overdrive was great. Near the beginning of the console cycle, but there's not really that standout title for me when I think of Xbox One. Right? Sea of Thieves is probably the first one that comes to mind, and so I hope that I think they've kind of learned from the fact that they were kind of behind this generation. I think they were kind of known as not having that huge game. And so now I think they're starting to turn that around and not, oh, hey, we're going to buy up this amazing company and then make Kinect games.
Yeah.
I think they're starting to let people be more creative and be willing to take the risks and spend the money to really have these studios shine. And I think that could result in some really interesting things later on.
Yeah. So we have a question here. This is addressed to Cody. Kind of brought this up a little bit, but can we talk about the user experience with previous gens dictating the look, feel, layout, etc., and limiting the user input? What are these? We've seen a little bit of the Series X UI, pretty much nothing of the PS5's UI. Do we think that they're going to make it a little bit more accessible, more customizable? What are your thoughts?
No way. There's no, I hate to be this way, and this is where my little anti-capitalist heart comes into play. I turn on my Samsung TV and it sees that I have a PlayStation 4 connected and gives me an ad to buy FIFA. There's no...
Seriously?
Yeah.
Your TV?
My TV will see, or it's...
that TV would go out the fucking window.
I was loading up my Xbox, or I had an Xbox plugged in, or I think it was on my Fire Stick or something, and I'm starting to get these ads. We're not going to get away from this customization ads. They're going to make it... It's going to become more ingrained.
Dude, you remember when we did that charity event and we got that TV at Blue Dog? It was a Roku-enabled TV. You couldn't even turn on and use the TV until you inputted a Roku account.
Yeah.
Into the...
100%.
You couldn't even just use it as a TV.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I'm going to diverge a little bit from... I guess technically it's still new consoles, but the Oculus Quest 2 comes out this week. It comes out on Tuesday, I think. And you can't even log into that without a Facebook account. You have to have a Facebook account connected to the Oculus, which is a whole other thing we can get into later. But I don't see... I think that right now, we have these major console companies, and we're seeing this with big tech in general. People want to pay money to be in your living room, to be in front of you. I saw, there were some conversations... Mr. Melee came in earlier. We went to PAX with him. Hey, good to see you. But yeah, he mentioned earlier, Xbox is just as bad. They're putting in ads inside all of their, home screens and stuff like that. When you were talking about,
there was a
the
period of
stuff.
time in the 360 era where Xbox had the best.
Yeah, it was Blades.
The best UI. Everything was clean. Yeah. Everything on there was customizable. You could move the little blocks around. Then they started adding ads, and yeah.
Yeah, it's we had Blades and we had, I think, NXE for the 360, and then after they got NXE and started to put ads into it, and that's when it was over. And now we're seeing that. So if I'm being honest, I actually see the PS5's UI. I could see that being even worse than the PS4s, even worse than the PS3s.
I would not be surprised.
We're going to see more ads. We're going to see takeovers. I mean, you can't even go to most websites anymore without the takeovers and Call of Duty taking over all of IGN's homepage or something like that. I think it's a matter of time until somebody has the idea of, hey, we should do this with entire consoles, and you're going to load up your PS5 and voila, hey, we went through the nicest of installing the God of War Ragnarok theme, or the Mountain Dew Call of Duty theme.
Little clippy in the corner.
Yeah. So I definitely don't see there being much customization. I think we're past that. I think we kind of held on to it for a bit, and we've lost it.
And it's a shame too. You mentioned access to internet. There's still a lot of the U.S. that doesn't have good broadband internet. Every time you're flooding the screen with all these different icons and everything, that stuff has to be pulled from somewhere, and that stuff has to load. Yeah. And so when you're switching between a game to the UI and it's pulling up a whole bunch of images for the icons you don't even want on there, it just creates a poor user experience. Yeah. I don't know if you have any thoughts on... Now we're in Gripe Fest territory, but...
It's an unfortunate thing. Ads, I think, are never going away because obviously they help pay for certain things and do stuff, and there's obviously a balance between being too intrusive and just being not as intrusive. There's not really a win-win anywhere.
I
But
think
I do think there is, I do think the benefit of these new systems, the operating systems working better, I think will hopefully help with the user experience a little bit because, for the longest time, like the Xbox One dashboard was so slow to load up, to move around, to do all this stuff. And I think the biggest part will be getting into the game. So yeah, you may see ads here and there doing stuff, but I think what's really exciting about these new systems is the ability to jump in between games really quickly and going back and forth and just moving a lot quicker through them and getting to what you want to do. So I think hopefully that will help with some of the intrusion of having some icons you don't want on your front screen and stuff. But if you know where you're going and you know where you're looking, I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, I do have to say I've totally just blanked on it. The quick switch on the Series X.
Quick resume.
Yeah, the quick resume. That's pretty impressive. I think most people were testing it, and depending on the titles, they were getting somewhere in the 5 to 6 games/apps that you could have paused at any minute. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. Like, I could see me having 1 or 2 games paused, and then maybe some like YouTube. Yeah, that you would be jumping between at any given time.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I remember when they announced that kind of a feature coming to last gen with PS4, and it was this idea of like, oh yeah, like I can turn on my PS4 and voila, I'm in the game, right? Like sleep mode. That's insane to think about. That like, I can go home right now, press power on my PlayStation, and probably my like run for Tony Hawk is still going to be live and ready to go. So I think it's really interesting the evolution of that. And kind of seeing that grow as a feature has been super cool.
So I want to pause us for a moment because you may have heard we did a little competition for the new consoles.
Yeah.
I know that's new. Before we do the winners, though, I want to... we asked on our survey results a couple questions. Curious, what was the more requested one, the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X?
Adam, this is you.
Adam, you want to take a guess?
So, I'd say the PS5 is the obvious answer, so I'm going to go Series X.
Okay. Well, you would be wrong. So, yeah, according to this is just our sample that participated in the survey, 65.5% of folks preferred the PlayStation 5. So that's a little more than what it currently is on the PS4, Xbox One, but not too far off. It's a roughly 2 to 1. So I mean, we're in that ballpark.
Yeah,
the same one.
I also love. I know that because we've been shilling this out for a while, and I've talked to a couple people who signed up, and they were just like, oh, well, I'm buying an Xbox One, so I might as well try to win a free PS5 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting seeing maybe for these giveaways. I wonder if that skews it a little bit. Where people are just like, yeah, sure, I'll sign up for PS5. I'm going to buy an Xbox regardless, but if I can get a free console at launch, sure, sounds great.
Yeah, totally. And I'm just double-checking one thing for legalese reasons before I announce the winners.
Oh, nice. Well, we can talk. So while Chris is doing that, we can go from there. Adam, what's like your most anticipated feature coming for next gen? Be it Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. What are you really excited about that these features are going to have?
I think one of the biggest things is just going to be like the quick resume and the load times because, especially being someone who's in the industry and like I do a lot of game capture and a lot of, help and trying to find stuff for articles or videos I'm producing and stuff. It's going to be so nice to be able to switch between stuff really simply and really easily back and forth and doing all those things. So I just like a good, clean user experience. I like being able to jump into what I want to do and get to where I want to go and do all that stuff. So I'm just excited for the new technology and the power of it. And I mean, obviously excited for ray tracing and all the graphics and like particle effects and all this cool stuff. But I just think new technology always brings some quality of life improvements that I think will make gaming just a little better.
Yeah, it's crazy. Ray tracing. I was definitely the person who's like, it's cool tech. As a dev, like that's super exciting to know that we can start to support that hardware. But like it didn't really hit me until I had a motherboard fry on my main laptop last year, and so I took it in for like a warranty at like Best Buy. And they're like, oh yeah, you still have a warranty. Here's a gift card for like $2,200 or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well I can either buy. I had missed that was at the end of one generation of the 1080s. and we just started the 20 series, and so it's like, okay, well, I can either buy like, you know, a really cheap 20 series, or I could just, you know, pay another $1,000 and get like a computer that can just absolutely crush anything I throw at it. So I did the less responsible option, did that. But, you know, I was trying to get these games that were just like, okay, cool, these are what people are saying ray tracing is about. And man, I don't know if you guys have seen Control on like a ray traced 3080, but like it was amazing just walking through some of those environments and some of the things that they do with like the art style and the light sources and their art aesthetic and whatever. That really is what brought kind of ray tracing into my attention and like, okay, yeah, this could be really cool. And I love how we're seeing that more now with things like, you know, they just did the Spider-Man breakdown where it was just like, oh yeah, like you can literally see, you know, Spider-Man swinging and like you could see reflections in the cars and more people. So I think I'm really excited to see where that technology goes, because, you know, we've had ray tracing for years as like a technology, but never to this extent. And so now that even the main consoles are going to see it, you know, how far is this going to get pushed in, you know, the next 5-6 years? What are we going to be seeing that, you know, we've never seen before because of this kind of technology being able to go?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, and this is coming from a guy that like dropped way too much money on a LG OLED 65-inch screen. Like, graphics are great, but I'm just noticing more and more as my time is limited, as I've got more things as an adult. Just give me some speed, you know, like make it so that I don't have to wait between loading. Borderlands 3, I love playing that game, but man, like that inventory and stuff is just, you know, it's just maddening sometimes.
Yeah, one of the things that, and then I know we're everybody's holding their breath for our announcements. One of the things, and I hope that PlayStation does this too, but Xbox recently announced that you can preload any game at any time. So like if, you know, you've got a collector's edition coming for the new Spider-Man game, you can preload that to your, or Spider-Man's a bad call, Halo. You pre-order the new Halo game or whatever, you can preload that to your console even if you don't buy it digitally. And then they just need the disc in like normal. So I think that's another like speed thing where now, you know, I switched to mostly digital this year because I could have it installing and ready to go so that, you know, when the game came out, I could come home and play it and not have to worry anymore. And it's really exciting that we can start to do that with physical too. So I hope from a time perspective that can go on.
Well, we're going to talk about the future of these next gens, but let's jump into our contest.
Ooh.
So this is something Cody and I, like I said, we've been thinking about. We really wanted to do this, even with all the uncertainty, even not even knowing if the consoles were going to come out or not. But we decided to do this. So our winners, the first winner that we have of the GDEX Win Big contest is Sean McCarthy, who selected the PlayStation 5.
Hey,
so,
congrats, Sean!
Sean. Our second winner is Ben Gregson, who is going to win. He's from Arlington, Virginia.
Oh, hey, that's actually the person I was talking about who wanted to win the free PS5.
Oh, really? Let's see where Sean is from. Oh, Sean's from Ireland, so we're going to have to work on that.
Oh, that'll be fun. Wait, didn't we say it was US
yeah,
only?
we said this is U.S. only, so...
Uh-oh. Well,
we're
sorry,
gonna
Sean.
Yeah, we're going to have a conversation about that.
Take a flight over here.
But, anyway, congratulations.
Hey!
Hey, congratulations.
We will figure out the details on everything, including when they may or may not even be coming out.
Yeah,
with people directly, so...
Yeah, should we could talk offline.
Yeah, we'll talk offline about
that. There's a very real reason why we said Continental US, and that's because we were just going to forward the Amazon link to you.
Yeah, like we literally can't ship these.
Yeah,
you know, we can't ship these out of the country. I don't even know, are they region locked? Is this generation region locked?
I think they stopped doing that last year, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, Sean, fingers crossed for you, bud.
Yeah. So maybe you're from Ireland, but you're here? We'll figure it out offline.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the future of games, because Cody, you hit on a pretty important point that both consoles, straight up from the get-go, have a digital version.
Yeah.
Just discless version.
Yep.
So I'm waiting to see about the Series S thing, because I think a lot of people might be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
In the Series S, but that's a whole other conversation. But digital only. I bought a disc version. I'm not ready to go discless on my main version. that has some to do with I like collecting steelbooks and stuff. That has some to do with I don't quite trust the way licensing and stuff is going to work on some of these things. But but didn't you buy a disc version pre-order for your PlayStation, or did you buy the discless?
I bought disc. Yeah.
Disc.
So I went for the physical version. For I guess 2 reasons. One, I definitely agree. I've mostly moved away from physical media. I buy all my movies digitally. I listen to Spotify or whatever. I get a lot of the, I get a lot of my games digital now, unless if there's like a really good sale or something like that. But yeah, it's really interesting because now we're even seeing kind of the ramifications of, I think Sony just announced that the store version of, like the web version of the store you can't use for PS3 or Vita coming soon. So like I'm not able to go on... Yeah, I'm not able to go onto the web store and buy a Vita game anymore. I have to go on my console to do it. And that does bring up some really interesting concerns from my perspective of, okay, well, what happens in 5 years? Like, when I have all my digital Vita games, am I going to be able to buy another one? Like, if I go back and say, hey, you know what, I really want to play, like, Ease or something like that. Let's go buy it. Like, am I going to be able to get on that store? Can I download it? I think that we've hit this really interesting point where in 5 years, are we going to be able to download PS3 games, even if we did buy them? I think a lot of people are talking about, digital versus physical, and I think Scott Pilgrim is a really good example of an amazing game that got pulled down from digital stores. And so they're up for like the last 6 years or something like that. You couldn't buy the game.
Yep.
PT. And it was really hard. Yeah, PT you can't even download anymore.
Yep.
And so I'm a little apprehensive towards a all digital front because I don't want to see that. I want those physical discs. I still want it to be a thing, but it's real interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, we could have a whole other hour discussion on, and I do in my class, about digital. Because, when you're buying digital, you're not buying the game. You are buying a license to be able to use the game for as long as the licensee decides it. And they can pull it at any time. They can change the downloading rules at any time. And it does create some questions, the same in the music industry and stuff. What about you, Adam? Are you still in the disc world, or are you going all digital?
So I'm definitely still in the disc world. I am mostly digital, but I am a sucker for some good collector's editions here and there, and I think I'm starting to see a few like rumblings of some collector's editions offering digital versions, which I'm happy about. But I'm still definitely part of the I do like all digital, but there is the occasion where I'll need to do a disc, like for Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example. I had to get the collector's edition, and that came with a disc, so
you
I had to make sure it happens. But,
did you end up getting your motorbike edition?
Well, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's so good.
Again, that goes back to internet. So all three of us are based here in Columbus. Columbus is a huge tech city. We have a great broadband and fiber infrastructure, but there's just certain parts of both the U.S. and the world that digital just doesn't work.
Well, it blew my mind. Just thinking about like the fact that here in Columbus we don't have broadband caps, but in a lot of other places like. You get I'm gonna be nice and say you get a terabyte of downloads a month, and that's it.
I was watching Kind of Funny,
Yeah.
and they had 4 people on, and I forget who it was, like Tim Geddes or someone mentioned that he's like, I blew by my limit. And I was like, we don't have on cell phones, obviously that's a different story, but on our internet,
there's no limit like that. So even that and that. Yet again, little anti-capitalist Cody coming out. Like, that scares me of, in 10 years, is that what our internet's going to be like, too? And then, at that point, why even have an all-digital future? Like, that'll disincentivize me from doing it. It's the same with, like, the Netflix effect, where you and I were talking about this, where, like, when Netflix came out, piracy rates went down dramatically, because it was so easy to just buy a Netflix account, pay $7 a month. And I'm curious, where this is going to lead. As technology gets harder and harder and weirder, are we going to find these weird alternatives to get past it? Are we going to find... Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird time we live in, and a weird future we have in front of us.
And there's also
I think one of the biggest things too for me is the future of game streaming. Like obviously with xCloud or Xbox Cloud Gaming, Stadia, and Amazon Luna's coming out with one of all this stuff. And so this Tuesday. There's the new iPhone announcement, and everyone's saying they're going to announce the 5G iPhones. So, once 5G is, readily available, and once X and Apple, or Microsoft and Apple make up, and xCloud is on iOS, and you can just play your games on your phone or iPad wherever you are. I mean, I think that's going to be a big change for stuff. I mean, obviously it's super internet based, but
Yeah.
you're right. You know, data limits are going to limit that and certain stuff like that. But the future is, I think, a lot about internet and streaming, and I think we still have a ways to go to get it where everyone can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'm interested in too, that's not directly consoles, is big box retailers. So retail has been the way that most games have been purchased in the console space since the 80s. That's rapidly changing, which means places like your Targets, your Best Buys, your Walmarts, they're not going to have the kind of purchasing power and control over PlayStation and Xbox that they have.
Yeah.
So we might start to see new sales specials. We might to see, maybe PlayStation, I doubt they would do this, but just in Crazy World, they're just like, every first party title is free.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Game Pass is, right? You pay for your $15 a month, but yeah, I think it's interesting, and that's I think the real nail in the coffin for me and switching to digital was when Best Buy stopped their Gamers Club. So they had for a while, you get 20% off any game. So like me as somebody who likes to buy a lot of new games and buy a lot of special editions and stuff, I was all on board. I'm like, yeah, totally. I'll pay $60 a year or whatever to get 20% off. I'm gonna make that up in no time.
Amazon had the same thing.
Yeah, Amazon had it for a while too, and I don't know if like the margins were just too insane or that was there. But for me, I mean, that competed with digital pretty aggressively. If I could get a free game for every 5 or 6 I buy. Yeah, that makes sense.
It comes. You talk about your anti-capitalist thing. Like when it comes down to pure capitalism, as it functions, there is no reason that a digital game should cost the same as a physical game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like if you're just looking at basics, Econ 101.
Yeah.
And for a big reason why they do cost the same is that the digital retailers, PlayStation and Microsoft, didn't want to upset the big box retailers.
Yeah.
That's becoming less of a consideration now. So. We may start to see things change, though it seems like we're starting to see them move. We're starting to see games come out at $70.
Yeah.
So it's probably not likely that we're going to start to see competition drive pricing down in the digital space. But who knows? We're in a weird world.
Man, if I was high up,
think about it. Like GameStop, Best Buy, Target, like all these places. I mean, obviously, there's been anecdotal evidence that they're getting less of these, but they're literally selling consoles. Like digital consoles where people aren't going to be able to buy games from them in the future.
Yep.
I mean, that's a crazy thing. I mean, that's it's just, they're literally saying, okay, you want to buy this console? Okay, have fun. I guess we won't see you again for a while.
Yep. We'll see you in 7 years.
Yeah, so it's
so
interesting.
There's a whole bunch to talk about, but we're getting a little tight on time, so just go kind of around the room and end on a high note. Some things you're excited about. We've got the 3-4 weeks, we're gonna have what's that holiday? Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, that one.
2020 time has no meaning anymore. But we're gonna have new consoles straight for the holidays. So we're gonna have Thanksgiving and Christmas to kind of play around with some new things. So Adam, why don't you tell us what are you excited about over the next couple of months to the end of the year with your new consoles, and any last thoughts you might have?
Yeah, no, like I said, I love technology. I love video games. I love seeing the future and being a part of it. And
are you playing Cyberpunk?
I think it's just, what was it?
Are you gonna get Cyberpunk?
Oh, for sure, definitely. Yeah, I'm excited to see how that runs and do all that stuff. I might get it on PC because I have a pretty good PC now that might run that. But definitely excited to get that. But I love seeing the future of where games are going to be because a console launch is only the very beginning of a very long marathon. Mm-hmm. And it's just exciting to see it evolve. And I think really over this generation, I'm just going to have my eye very closely on Microsoft because I think we are going to see a lot of fruits of their labor from all these studio acquisitions, new IPs and games. And I really hope they knock it out of the park because they have really been, obviously they're a company, they're trying to get money out of all of us, but they have been pretty consumer friendly and forward facing with a lot of the things. So I really hope that a lot of this stuff that they're doing and the groundwork they're setting really pays off because it's only going to make our lives as video game enthusiasts better if Microsoft is pushing Sony and their exclusives that much farther because they have incredible ones. So I'm just excited to see how the future kind of holds with that. I think there's a lot of excitement in this next generation, even if it's doesn't feel as big of a jump as like from PS2 to PS3 or one of these things. There's always excitement and new possibilities when new systems coming, and it's a great time to be alive. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So in chat it says that Adam is the Cyberpunk. So there you go.
Yes,
Cody,
exactly.
any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. I like that I can put an NVMe drive into my PS5 to inevitably support my 4 terabytes of just
It's
needing
going to cost
every
the price of the console itself.
I got a 2 terabyte hard drive in my laptop. I think it was like $400. It's one of the best decisions I've made. Like, it's so nice. So yeah, I'm really excited to see just the new tech. And Adam, I want to kind of copy your sentiment there of just like, when you think of the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, you don't think about, well, okay, you think about Knack, but that's about the only launch title that you ever think about.
I can't believe we don't have a Knack at launch. Cody.
Yeah, right. I want Knack 3. So it's one of those things where it's just like, I think of the God of Wars and the Last of Us Part 2, and I think of all these amazing games that really push the hardware. So yeah, Adam, as exciting as it is to see this tech now, like, it's gonna blow I'm sure it's gonna blow all of our minds in 5-6 years when developers really get these things under their thumbs and can kind of control them in a way that's gonna like be an awesome step forward in technology.
Awesome. Well, I want to end with, and I got to talk fast because we're going to kick off to our charity stream here shortly, but I think I want to just, it's been easy this year to get lost in the funk and the challenge of everything that's going on, and the fact that we haven't had some of those moments where you can get hyped about the consoles like we traditionally are, and it's exciting. Yeah, they're corporations. Yeah, they want to make money from us, yada yada, but every time a new console comes out, it's exciting, and it's okay to be excited about it. It's okay to think about what it's going to be like when you get it on launch day or for Christmas, and getting it set up, and the inevitable like complete collapse of the servers when you try to log in on Christmas Day or whatever. Like, that's all part of this kind of shared experience that we get to have as gamers every 7 or 8 years or whatever. And so I say, be excited, whatever console you're going to get, or if you're going to be in the PC world with some of these games, I hope you all have an awesome holiday. I hope you get a chance to get whatever one you want, and have some fun with it for the rest of 2020, because it's been a hell of a year, and we all deserve, I think, a little break.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Chris, it's actually real funny, real quick, but
we have no real quicks.
When I started here, that was when the PS4 launch.
Oh, really?
That was me starting Multivarious, and you and I like trying to get our PS4s pre-ordered.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was right as I started MVG.
Fine,
so
man.
it's real fun to kind of think about that shared experience and where we've gone since then. So
totally. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna cut to our over to our charity stream in a minute, but you're our guy, man. Well, we really appreciate you being a part of the panel.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It's always great to talk to you guys, talk about the future. It's what we all love, so I think it's good to focus on the good things in life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully your wife lets you in the house and out of the car for the rest of the
seriously.
weekend. So, all right.
Do PS5s work in the car? That's the question.
Ooh.
Take it easy, Adam. Have a great weekend.
Bye, Adam.
Thank you, guys.